Hello, everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. And welcome to our webinar, Reimagining Marketing Strategy for the AI Era. I'm Kaushik Vishwanath, Features Editor at MIT Sloan Management Review, and I'll be moderating today's event. Today's program is sponsored by SAS. So moving on to today's topic and speaker. If you work in marketing, you've probably found yourself in this situation. You know that generative AI has huge potential for marketing, but you're staring at the possibilities, wondering where exactly to start. It's no longer a question of whether to use AI, but figuring out how to do it strategically without making expensive mistakes along the way. That's exactly the topic that we're going to tackle today. We're very fortunate to have Professor Oguz Acar joining us from King's College London. Oguz, who we also call Oz, is a professor of marketing and innovation and the head of generative AI at King's Business School and a research affiliate at Harvard University's Laboratory for Innovation Science. He's been deep in the trenches studying how AI is reshaping marketing, and he's advised a wide range of companies on getting this just right. Oz has written an article for MIT SMR on how generative AI changes creative work. We'll post that in the handout section for download, and we'll also post a link in the chat. Today, Oz is going to share a strategic roadmap for approaching AI in marketing. We'll look at how to identify the highest impact opportunities, how to build consumer trust when deploying AI, and some real-world lessons from companies that have gotten it right and some that haven't. Oz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kaushik, and thanks everyone for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And before we get started, let me do a quick poll to get a sense of your views on Gen AI. Over the next 3 years, which statement best matches your view on Gen AI? So, Gen AI is mostly hype and will fade. Gen AI is overhyped but valuable. Gen AI is about as impactful as advertised. Gen AI will have a bigger impact. It will rapidly disrupt entire industries. So I can see here already that most of you think that Gen AI have a much bigger impact than people expect. I'll wait for another 5 seconds or so for everyone to have the opportunity to respond. Right. So it's not really changing, so we can really go back to slides. I'm together with people who are really optimistic about the future and impact of AI. When you're answering the poll and completing the survey, perhaps you thought about some other hype technologies like metaverse, 3D printing, or blockchain. All these technologies were hyped up, but didn't really live up to the expectation. So 3D printing was supposed to revolutionize manufacturing. Blockchain was supposed to transform finance. And I think AI has, among other things, has a fundamental difference from these technologies. And it has to do with the nature of the technology. And here's a paper on this very topic. As the playful title illustrates, it's kind of a title you can't really argue against. GPTs are GPTs. This is a general purpose technology. So the first GPT in the title refers to the GPT of ChatGPT, generative pre-trained transformer. The second is the nature of the technology, general purpose technology. And the paper argues and shows some evidence that Gen AI is indeed a general purpose technology. So what this means in the simplest possible terms is that this is kind of a technology that will impact and touch on many aspects of our professional and personal lives. To put this into better context, some other general purpose technologies include steam engine, electricity, and internet. So this is important for our subsequent discussions, I wanted to highlight and start with this first. Many of you may be already familiar with it. And one of the areas, at least business functions, where we see the impact of this technology most saliently is marketing function. It doesn't mean that it's not used in other functions, but AI is used most frequently in marketing departments. Here's an illustrative survey from McKinsey to document this. It's not an easy to interpret survey. It's kind of busy, but it shows in a nutshell that 42% of organizations use Gen AI in marketing and sales functions. Compare this to only 13% of organizations using it for human resources, for example. So there are other surveys pointing to a similar point. So marketing is one of the areas where we see and expect the impact of Gen AI to be most pronounced. And for a marketer or a manager, often starting point is thinking about use cases. So asking what are the use cases of Gen AI in marketing. But I don't think this is necessarily the most useful way to approach this technology. And this also has to do with the nature of the technology. As mentioned, this is a GPT, general purpose technology, which basically means that the potential use cases are ample. We can literally come up with hundreds of them. And it's a bit like asking, what is the use case for electricity, or what's the use case for the internet? What I think is more useful is thinking about broader impact areas, or impact vectors, I like to call them. What are the broader directions of impact that this technology could have, and rather than instead of trying to catalog individual applications? So what are these impact vectors? I call these impact vectors as the 4 C's of marketing AI opportunities. And these are the kind of 4 broad areas where I expect generative AI to transform marketing: customization, creativity, connectivity, cost of intelligence. So let's talk about each of them one by one. First, customization. I could have also called this personalization, but it doesn't start with a C, so it wouldn't have been 4 C's. So I called it customization. So it's about Gen AI offering unprecedented opportunities for customization and personalization. I think the best example to illustrate this is the Carvana, a digital platform for selling used cars. Let's first see the video, and then I'll talk more about this.
I'll never forget the day we met. I was so excited. It was April 29, 2020. Everyone was making sourdough. Whoa. It was National Zipper Day. That's fun. Spring had finally arrived, and you and I were both in Long Beach, California. Gosh, we were just kids then. I was a wide-eyed and innocent 2019 blue Volkswagen Beetle. And they had just told me the name of my new owner, Sharif. I hope I pronounced that.
So this is a video that Carvana generated for Sharif. I cut it in half in the interest of time. This video is generated for Sharif based on his purchase, using details like the car, time, place, etc. of the purchase, and extrapolating from that. And what is interesting about this is the company generated 1.3 million unique videos like this for each customer. So everything in the video that you've seen, from the visuals to the soundtrack, was bespoke to their individual customer. So this is a level of customization which was unthinkable before Gen AI. Another example is customized chatbots. So we are most likely moving forward, we will most likely see chatbots, personas that are tailored to specific customer segments or even specific customers. So to get a sense of potential, I think it's useful to look at the success of Character.ai. I don't know if you're familiar, but this is actually the second most popular application right after ChatGPT. And what it does is it basically allows users to engage with AI-generated characters. So these could be fictional or historical creations. So you can chat from Napoleon Bonaparte to Super Mario and have a conversation with them. So this is going to be probably one of the things that we are going to be seeing more and more. We know that some leading AI labs are also working on that and even launch some technical capability to for smaller companies to be able to actually generate these kind of chatbots. We also see this incorporated in product offerings. Spotify's Gen AI playlist is a good example. It basically creates a playlist that you like. You could ask the chatbot to put you into the mood for a tough presentation that you're going to give or a date that you want to go, and it will bring you a customized list. Maybe it will include things like Eye of the Tiger if you need motivation, or if you need to feel like more romantic, you will get I'll Always Love You in the playlist. And let's see this following video from somebody that might be a bit familiar.
こんにちは。今日はクールなことを試しています。方言ラブスから新しいリップシンク翻訳機能。私はトルコ語など私が慣れている言語でこのツールを示してみました。ここではそれを別のテストに入れるつもりです。だから日本語に関してどれくらいの主語をするか。
This is me speaking Japanese, but the thing is, I don't speak a word of Japanese. I mean, I speak 2 words, konnichiwa and arigato, but that's about it. But I can generate content in that language. My Japanese colleagues and students say that this is pretty good, but not perfect. What I did was I took my iPhone, I recorded myself in my kitchen saying something in English, and then I uploaded that video to a platform called HeyGen. And then I picked video translation. And at that moment, I don't know why, I felt like choosing Japanese. I could have picked Mandarin or Spanish or Italian. And it basically translated to this. So this level of customization can now even break language barriers. And it means a lot for bigger companies, but also smaller brands. So if you are an olive oil producer in Spain, you can now connect to those in China. So the second C of marketing AI opportunities is creativity. And this is a nuanced topic. And this is something that I also discuss in detail in a paper that you will have access to. I think Kaushik was telling about this paper, and where I discuss in detail, also documenting latest scientific evidence about the impact of Gen AI on creative work. So this is a bit of a nuance and also hotly debated topic, and whether machines can genuinely be creative or not is really debated. But one thing is clear. I'm not going to go into that particular discussion in the interest of time, but one thing is clear. AI can generate outputs that are deemed creative. And that is also something that we have seen in the emerging scientific evidence. So I'd like you to take a moment to look at this photo. How do you like it? And you might be asking, why is he showing me this photo? And you may have guessed that this is AI generated, and you would be right. What makes this worthy of showing is that this is the winner of Sony World Photography Awards in the creative photo category. So these tools not only generate creative outputs, but can even win creative awards. And this is something, another example, more anecdotal. This is a GPT that I developed. It's essentially a bespoke version of ChatGPT for those who are not familiar. And this is designed to generate new product ideas across different categories and domains. So I built it on the foundations of creativity research and innovation practice, which is my area of expertise. And what it does is it take a product category you specify, then generate around 40 ideas by applying constraints, using analogical transfer, or recombining concepts, things that we know from research that helps with creativity. And then it develops some rapid prototypes for the new products ideas that you have generated. I won't go into too many details here, and I won't be able to show it in the interest of time. But when I use this on the spot in executive workshops or seminars, something interesting happens. So people usually start taking notes, and they often say among those ideas, there were a few we really hadn't thought of, and they are genuinely promising. And they also recognize that many of the ideas are good, but they've already considered. But they also recognize that many of them are also not good. But the point is, even experts get fresh sparks when they see the breadth and variety that this GPT and generative AI tools in general can provide. So I've seen it across different audiences from different industries, from tech products to educational products to financial products. And it's also worth noting that Gen AI can now do many things that are traditionally considered creative, like putting together some content, written content, such as social media content. Here's an example from Jasper, but there are others. Generating images, another domain that is typically considered to be creative, and you're probably familiar with, there are many text-to-image models. Here I show Canva and Adobe Firefly. Not necessarily because they are the best, but I happen to choose them. But you can think of many others, including those from frontier models like ChatGPT and Gemini, or other ones that focus specifically on text-to-image like Midjourney, Flux, Ideogram, etc. There are many examples. It can even generate music. If you haven't, I encourage you to take a look at Suno or Udio to get a sense of where it is. And if you haven't ever heard of any AI-generated song, you might be up for a surprise. It can generate podcasts, and I'll show you a podcast that I generated with AI. And all I did was to take 3 of my writings on generative AI in education, one for Harvard Business Publishing, one for World Economic Forum, and one for an academic journal, and then ask AI to turn that into a podcast or audio overview, if I use the terminology that Notebook LM platform uses. I'll play just a few seconds so you can get a sense of how realistic, how good, how bad it might sound. Let's play it.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever feel like, things are changing crazy fast? Especially in tech, right?
It's a lot to keep up with, that's for sure.
So today, we're diving into something huge, generative AI, but not just the tech itself, how it's about to totally shake up education.
Big time. Whether you're a student, an educator, or just curious about the future, this one's for you, definitely.
And get this, we've got a super stacked lineup of sources today. We're talking an academic paper, a Harvard Business School article.
Oh, and even a report from the World Economic Forum. We're talking the heavy hitters.
No kidding.
Right, so it was actually over 10 minutes long podcast. I just wanted to give you a sense of where the technology is now, if you haven't heard. And if you haven't, if it is your first time, you might find it quite striking, which was the reaction that I had when I tried it first time. And it can generate videos, and it has actually made quite significant progress in this area over the past year or so. Now Google's latest model, Veo 3, can even incorporate sound. There are many amazing AI-generated short movies out there. I want to show you an ad that is generated fully with AI. It's a bit of a controversial one, but it illustrates the state of the art well, so that's why I picked that. And this is reportedly cost around $2,000 to produce. And as you all probably aware, this is really not low. Let's see the video.
Indiana gonna win, baby!
We're in Florida asking people what they put their money on! I'm all in on OKC!
Indiana got that dog in them.
Will egg prices go up this month?
I think we'll hit $20. How many hurricanes do you think we'll have this year?
Kalshi lets you legally trade on anything, anywhere in the U.S.
OKC.
Right, as I said, this is a bit of a controversial video, but it really shows the state of the art, and there are maybe more positively received ones out there, like the ones from Toys R Us, Coca-Cola, etc. But this changes allows marketers to completely reimagine what is creatively possible with Gen AI. And the third impact vector, or the third C of marketing AI opportunities, is connectivity. So Gen AI offers new avenues for brands to connect with customers, as well as facilitating connections between customers. And this is perhaps best illustrated with this following example. Let's see the video, and then I'll speak about it.
Hi, it's me, Jennifer Lopez, Chief Celebration Officer of Virgin Voyages, here to invite you to celebrate. So come,
Celebrate your anniversary, your birthday, or just generally being fabulous.
Really, Kyle?
It's good, right?
Gen AI is supposed to be inviting people to Virgin Voyages, not doing whatever that was. Just give me that.
As I was saying, why not celebrate on an award-winning voyage with Michelin-starred, chef-curated menus,
World-class destinations, award-winning...
Boring! I'll hop in there. I'll hop right in that suit.
so supple.
I can't watch this. Give it to me. There's no kids here. That's all you need to know.
No kids!
Oh, can I live there?
Gen AI. Invite your crew to voyage. Create your custom invite at virginvoyages.com.
It's not just a yacht, it's a super yacht.
As the video shows, this provides a near, fun, engaging way for customers to connect with each other. In this case, using Gen AI, not the Gen AI. The customers can invite their friends, families to Virgin Voyages through Jennifer Lopez's AI version. Also, Lays did something similar with Messi messages, where consumers connected with each other through AI Messi, although it was using a more primitive version of the technology. And this also allows, as I mentioned at the beginning, brands to connect with consumers in previously infeasible ways. So consider this Create Real Magic initiative of Coca-Cola. They've asked consumers to generate images for the brand, the ones that you're seeing on the screen, some of which, and using an AI tool that they have in their platform. So they've generated these images, and the best ones were showcased in some flagship places for outdoor ads, such as Times Square or Piccadilly Circus. So essentially, consumers with an idea was able to bring it into life using this tool. This could have been done without AI, perhaps, but it would have only attracted a certain group of consumers who has expertise in graphic design, who knows the software, like Photoshop and so on. So Gen AI democratized this in allowing, in this case, anyone with a good idea to generate outputs that weren't possible before. And it's not just image design. We can see these examples in coding, or these possibilities in coding. You may have heard this famous vibe coding everywhere. So it kind of provides new opportunities, new avenues for brands to connect with consumers. And the final one, the fourth C of the marketing AI opportunity, is about cost. And that's AI's potential to significantly reduce the cost of intelligence. So in a way, AI is doing what internet did to cost of information. Information used to be very costly, but reduced dramatically by the internet. So we can now almost reach any information anywhere in the world. Same is happening with the intelligence. Previously costly knowledge work is now getting much cheaper. So marketers can achieve significantly more at a fraction of the time and cost. And this impact spans across many but not all cognitive tasks. And this also has to do with the nature of this technology, this being a general purpose technology, from crafting a company blog post to analyzing qualitative consumer data to designing new advertisement or code for a new application. So consider this field experiment with Boston Consulting Group, one of the most well-known management consultancy companies. So a research team from Harvard, Wharton, and Warwick randomly assigned a group of these consultants to two groups. So the first group was the ChatGPT group, who were basically able to use ChatGPT in their tasks, and they have received a little bit of training at the beginning. The second group was control, which is basically the business as usual group. And they've given them a number of common management consultancy tasks, like, putting together a slide deck, writing a PR release, brainstorming new ideas, and so on. And at the end, they compared the outputs. So perhaps unsurprisingly, ChatGPT group got 12% more tasks, and they did it 25% quicker. But they also measured quality, and it was measured by having external judges rating each output from the two groups. They were blind to the conditions. And I would like to take a second to think about which group you think will create higher quality outputs. So it turns out, and it was really surprising for me, that ChatGPT group actually created outputs that were rated 40% higher quality. And if you think about this group, this particular sample, these are really capable people who are often coming from Ivy League schools with really good grades. So even there, they were able to, and they had experience in the company as well. Even then, there was a possibility to increase the output quality above 40%. And we also have anecdotal examples. Klarna, for example, report getting AI to take care of 2/3 of their customer service conversations, driving about $40 million profit improvement. And I want to highlight another example and promising area to leverage reduced cost of intelligence, which is market research, and specifically in synthetic data. So we have promising results across the board suggesting that Gen AI has the potential to simulate human cognition and behavior, and also that it can generate similar results to real market research, both qualitative and quantitative. So now there are quite a few boundary conditions here, and it's not easy to get this right, but it's another promising area to leverage the cost benefit of generative AI. So I want to do my second poll now. So wrapping up this, now that we discussed these marketing AI opportunities and identified a few examples, I'd like to know which AI opportunity excites you most for your marketing organization. I'll wait a few seconds for this to load on your screens. I know there might be a gap, and I'll wait a few more seconds for you to have an opportunity to enter your response. So cost of intelligence appears to be the most. No, it's changing. It's changing quite fast, actually. Now it's very close between customization, connectivity, and cost. I'll wait another 5 seconds. Looks like customization is winner, but perhaps, as expected, creativity is one of the areas that doesn't seem to be most exciting. And as I said, that's really one of the contested areas. Okay, we can go back to slides. So far, I've drawn a very rosy picture of AI, and you might be thinking like we should go all in AI. We should all be AI first, and maybe you're asking if what could go wrong. And I like to say a lot can go wrong as well. And I've written about this in Harvard Business Review and elsewhere, and what exactly can go wrong with AI. And there are many potential pitfalls, organizational, technological, operational. they often stem from one core issue, which is treating AI as the ultimate goal and priority. It's like the old saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And this leads to implementing AI where it doesn't belong or in ways that risk alienating employees and customers. I won't be able to dive into all of these today, as our focus is on marketing here. Instead, I'll highlight 4 key risks that I think are most relevant to marketing. And as with opportunities, I've got 4 C's of marketing AI risks. Confabulation, which is also called hallucinations. And I picked this, yes, you guessed it, because it starts with C. This is about AI generating inappropriate, biased, or inaccurate outputs. And there's the copyright risks. It's about copyright risks, which can expose brands to legal issues. Cybersecurity risk, which is primarily about keeping consumer data secure and private, and the additional threats, cybersecurity threats that Gen AI brings. And customer reactance, and that is about potential consumer negative responses to use of AI by brands, which is not discussed enough in my observation. So consider DPD. Here's a confabulation taken the shape of what you're going to be seeing in this video. Let's see the video. It will probably not going to need any further explanation. Right. So you obviously don't want that to happen. We also have the risk of bias or biased output, sexist, racist, or more. It's a possibility. On your left-hand side, is a common response from AI image tools. When you ask it to visualize a specific jobs, when you ask it to be asked to visualize a doctor, it tends to say, brings a white man, whereas when you ask for a nurse, a woman, image comes out. Now, it's worth noting that these results are from the earlier versions of these text-to-image models, and that it has improved a lot. And there's variation across different models, but this remains a risk to keep in mind whether the AI models are generating biased outputs when you use it for your brand. And copyright is an evolving risk that marketers need to navigate, and there's quite a bit of lawsuits currently ongoing, so there's huge uncertainty. The latest advice from US Copyright Office is that AI-generated content could be copyrighted if there is meaningful human contribution. What's meaningful is open to interpretation, so it's not the clearest guidance, but it's better than having nothing, I suppose. And there's this risk of customer reactance to use of AI. I want to say a few things about algorithm aversion, which is a well-documented psychological phenomenon in academic research. So people tend to not trust or adopt algorithm outputs, even if they are better than humans. So that's something to keep in mind when you're incorporating AI with your brand. But we also know from research that, from recent meta-analysis, as well as my own research, this is not really uniform. It varies across different domains, product categories, and it could be overcome through design and communication. So as a brand manager, it's really essential to understand whether this is an issue for your target segment and take actions accordingly. So for example, we show that adoption of financial AI products could be improved significantly by adopting responsible AI practices, or showing human input behind AI can promote AI adoption much more effectively than anthropomorphizing AI, which is making AI look like human and the common practice. So this is all to say that it's important to understand the attitudes, perceptions, and behavior of your target segment with respect to AI and their AI perceptions before incorporating AI. Right, now that we wrapped up the risks of AI, I'm going to launch another poll, and I want to understand what is the risk that concerns you most for your marketing organization. I'll wait another 10 seconds or so. So confabulation seems to be the greatest concern for you here, together with cybersecurity. I'll wait another 5 seconds. Right. So confabulation is the biggest risk, followed by cybersecurity, and customer reactance and legal issues seems to be not as concerning. Okay, we can come back to slides. Right. You might be feeling like I'm giving mixed messages here. First, I argued AI is going to transform marketing, and then discuss things that all the ways how AI could go wrong. I think the key is neither going like AI first or going all in AI while making strategic consumers, people, an afterthought, or waiting for the dust to settle, not doing anything. But the key is to kind of approaching this in a way that is more strategic, that is more risk adjusted. So it's about adopting a thoughtful approach. Certainly not this, but in essence, what you're looking for is identifying use cases, uses that are high in opportunities, that the ones that we've discussed, and low in risks, and after mitigating those risks. So your marketing function have use cases that will fall under one of these 4 categories. So your job I think the primary challenge is to find those that are on the left, upper left corner of this matrix. Those are the ones for immediate experimentation. One way to systematically do this is a framework that I developed, their framework. So it starts with casting a wide net and taking a snapshot of all tasks in your marketing. And a straightforward way to do that is decomposing your roles. And we don't want to focus on jobs, because current AI models can't really fulfill full responsibilities of a job, but they can really handle tasks well. So you want to, if you're looking at content market specialists, for example, there's a range of tasks from content creation and SEO optimization to calendar management. Once decomposed, the next step is to identify the task, analyze the task in terms of the opportunities in those 4 opportunity vectors, and in terms of the risks in those 4 risk areas that we have discussed. So if it is social media content creation, you can really benefit a lot from creativity and cost, but you want to mitigate confabulation and consumer reactance. And once you analyze them and perhaps score from 0 to 10, they will all land in a place in the matrix that I've just shown. And those who are high in risk and low in opportunities tend to be the ones that you want to prioritize. And although brands that I work with, for example, want to go for a hackathon to do that. And before we wrap things up, I want to say a few words, and in fact leave you with some more questions to ponder. And it's about agents. Everyone is talking about them. There is a lot of intentional and unintentional confusion about them, as everything is being called agents. But I think this is bringing us to the verge of a new spectrum of relationships, and that I believe every brand manager should start thinking about it. And the reason is a lot of money is being invested on this. Every major AI lab is working on them, like Claude's computer use, ChatGPT's agents, and companies like Salesforce is also allowing brands to develop their agents. And second, on the consumer side, people are being increasingly comfortable with AI intermediation. Here are just some stats. I'll share 2 of them. Like 66% of Gen Z consumers are already relying on AI models to recommend brands and products. 24% of consumers already feel comfortable allowing AI agents to shop for them. So consumers are also getting ready. So we're looking at a spectrum like this, ranging from fully human to fully autonomous AI, and one side being human is the another possible side. So we want to get ready for that. And I think there are 3 questions that I would like to leave you with. And one is, should you deploy an AI agent? And I would like to encourage you to think about consumer reactance, how important human is in your domain. How do you get consumers to use your agents? Consumers now have an opportunity to use their own agent, like ChatGPT agent or your brand's agent, and you want them to use your brand's agent. And finally, for those consumers who opt to use consumer agents, how do you get those agents to pick your brand, which includes but not limited to LLM optimization. So this is something we have an ongoing paper with my colleague David Schwedel, and hopefully we'll be able to share them in not so distant future. I'd like to thank you very much for being with me and listening to me.
Thank you, Oz. That was fascinating. You certainly gave us a lot to think about. And I think if we had more time, we could have a much longer discussion on this topic. Certainly, judging by the number of questions we've had, there's a lot of curiosity on this topic. Before we turn to Q&A, I'd like to remind everyone attending that a recording of this webinar and the presentation will be available after we are done. So turning to questions, we have several, and so let me start with this one from an attendee named Marguerite, who asks, how will AI solutions and AI agents influence and change the customer decision journey? In a world where machines talk to machines and make purchase recommendation, what is the role that a brand plays? Do you think AI-powered marketing can effectively enhance customer engagement and loyalty, or do you see limitations in this area?
Right. Right. So it's a very good question, and there are a couple of questions there, and each of them are actually big questions. So I will start with the first one, which is, AI agents and what does that mean for brand-consumer relationship, and if there is a role for brands. And one of the things I think is applicable to marketing in general, or applicable to any domain that involves humans, there will not be a uniform response. So often the right answer to my questions in my classes is it depends. And obviously the more important part, perhaps more interesting part, is what it depends on. And I am fairly confident from what we know based on consumers' responses to AI and technology and algorithms in general, there will be domains where consumers will opt for humans. So there will be domains where human premium will be valued. And that could be, that will not be applicable to every domain. So, but I think one good example to illustrate that is, think about mechanical watches. If the objective is to show the time accurately, mechanical watches are awful, right? So quartz watches, which are often cheaper, or the digital watches like Apple Watch, are much better in showing them, and mechanical watches always miss the time with 1 or 2 seconds and sometimes more. But people still pay tens of thousands of pounds and dollars for mechanical watches to appreciate the artistry, to appreciate engineering behind them. So there will be domains where this will be valued. And I think that is something that every brand manager wants to think. So in your domain, what is the human premium? Does it, if you're a high luxury brand, I don't think you would just go all in to using agents in your customer interactions, because the experience itself with humans is part of that. So I think that is an important part to think about. And beyond that, I think there's still a role for brands. And that is because in the world of agents, I think trust is still very important. And brands could fail in that, like if they go, cut corners and do some shady practices in their AI approaches. but the brands that can adopt these responsible AI practices can actually establish trust, and that would put them in a position where consumers might actually want to engage with that brand's agent, as opposed to even their own consumer agent, right? So like if it is like OpenAI's ChatGPT, where they pay for and subscribe to, they could actually opt for the brand's agent. So I think there's still room for that, if I were to answer this question without going into too much detail. And another part of the question, I think it has like 3 parts. One was
this was actually a second question. I put them together by mistake, but this was from Zara and another attendee. Do you think AI-powered marketing can effectively enhance customer engagement and loyalty, or do you see limitations in that area?
I think there is room for using AI to promote customer engagement and loyalty more. But again, it's going to depend a lot on how you use this AI tool. And I think if you have a carefully designed human-in-the-loop system, I think this could really promote your brand and increase loyalty. So if they can get best of both worlds, such as getting really quick answers to their questions, so they don't need to wait 1 week for an email response from their brand, while also knowing that there's an oversight over this process, and while also knowing that they can actually go and talk to a human when the issue is very complex or very consequential. I think combining and designing systems that can escalate to humans in the right places and giving that opportunity can actually promote increased customer engagement and loyalty. And we also know from some research in marketing that the motivation behind incorporating these AI agents, AI tools, not agents, but AI bots, also affect how consumers view that. So once you communicate customers that this is to give you better service, and once they actually believe that, there's actually their responses are much different than when they think that, they're just trying to cut the costs.
Well, you anticipated a couple of other questions that we had. The first to do with the human-in-the-loop question. So this is from Neil, who asks, which side of the cognitive work should be handed over to AI, and where should we keep humans in control?
Right. Very good question. And that is probably $1 million question. And the answer to that will probably change as a function of where the technology goes, how it develops, and where it is good and not. And there are a couple of things to, I think, consider here. One is from capability standpoint, right? Where is this technology is trustworthy, where it is capable, where it can actually address customer queries effectively, and where not. So basically, from the capability standpoint, you want to go and do it in areas where it can do it. From the second part of that is, where do consumers actually accept their queries being handled fully by AI or raised to humans? So I think what we know is that the more consequential a domain or decision making or a process is for consumers, the less they're fine with leaving it to AI. Right. Similarly, so one other one is like objective versus subjective, their perception. So the more objective they perceive a task, not necessarily the more objective a task is, but the more objective they perceive it, the easier they feel that they could be handled to AI.
Right. And a second question we have that sort of touches on what you were talking about before. This is from Philip, who says that the webinar provided a convincing argument that the marginal cost of a marketing campaign can be greatly reduced with generative AI. But we can do cooler stuff more efficiently. Is it more effective?
Right. If we do cooler stuff more efficiently, does it mean more effective? Not always. but it can be. I think the results of the experiment that I have shown as kind of points to that, where the quality of the ratings that are generated by BCG consultants were actually deemed 40% higher. And this is not the only evidence to that. There are other evidence, there are other studies that has compared this. So there's benefits that's pointing to increased performance, increased effectiveness in domains as well. Sometimes this happens when you combine human and AI. So it's also worthwhile to evaluate, not necessarily just automating everything to AI. So human plus AI in general, not always, tends to increase both quality or both effectiveness as well as efficiency.
Right. And on a related note to that, there's a question about the Carvana video that you demonstrated. Do we know anything about business outcomes that were attributable to that particular campaign?
I am afraid I don't. Okay. So that's not being publicly shared or reported.
Right.
We do know some other campaigns where some other approaches where kind of Gen AI's customization benefits actually translated into better NPS score and higher kind of quickness, but like higher speed in resolving consumer queries. So there's some studies on that, some good studies as well, where we kind of see experimental assignment and then comparison of using AI to customize the response to consumers versus not using AI to customize the responses. So that we know there's significant increase, statistically significant increase in NPS scores, net promoter scores. But for this particular example, unfortunately, we don't. I would have loved to have this, but this is kind of the reason why I wanted to bring that example, is that because it really shows the scale, the unprecedented scale that we can reach in customization.
Yeah, and I think given the newness of these technologies, my impression is that a lot of the early campaigns that are built using it will have a little bit of showcasing the technology almost to the extent of being a gimmick, until the point where everyone becomes so used to generative AI that that is no longer the sole distinguishing feature of a marketing campaign that uses generative AI.
Right.
I'll turn to another category of questions that we received. These are, even though in the poll that you presented, the sort of copyright aspect or the legal risks of using generative AI, it didn't poll very highly. Despite that, we have a number of questions relating to that in the Q&A. So several attendees have asked, how do we address concerns about legal action against AI companies from original creators about the theft of ideas or pirated content that was used to train models and might inadvertently appear in marketing materials that is put out by brands? Is there a way that brands can protect against such lawsuits? And on the flip side, is there a way for content creators, creative people, to protect their own content from being pirated?
Right. Let me start with the first one. It's indeed a major. I was actually a bit surprised that didn't come out higher, because when I talk to marketing professionals, that tends to be one of the first things that right after confabulation that they bring about. So I think that there's obviously some level of uncertainty which can't be ruled out. There will be the uncertainty until we know the outcomes of these lawsuits. But what could be done for brand managers is they could be careful in terms of their choice of partners in providing these models. What I mean by that is there are some providers, I don't know if I should name their names because it will be kind of advertising per se, but there's some providers that actually have indemnification policies, which essentially means that if you get a lawsuit, if you're in trouble, I'm going to pay the bill. So that obviously gives some ease of mind. And there are also some providers that have a more ethical stance on this, which is they only, in the context of text-to-image models and text-to-video models, they only train based on the content for which they have copyright, or based on the content which is kind of copyright free or publicly available. They have a public copyright. So those kind of partners would be safer bets. And I can't really think of any other way to really address this issue. And the second part of the question, what could creators do? This is, I think, much harder because we really don't know fully where these models are getting their data from and how they are getting. And presumably they've gotten everything on the internet already. That is not a far-fetched kind of estimation. What they could do is some of the models actually allow kind of website owners and so on to opt out. So I think it will be worthwhile to keep that in mind. And I don't like this opting out approach because it requires, it puts the burden on the creator, which it shouldn't. Right. But they have it, and I would ask them to kind of look at them, especially the main frontier model developers' approaches to this, and then opt out from them.
A related or slightly different set of questions came in about the sort of the risks of using some of these text to voice or even the one that the video you demonstrated of you speaking Japanese. Is there a potential for using such tools for fraud, and how can brands protect against that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that is, I think that is one of my major concerns, that on a personal level as well, and 100%. And I am fairly confident that it will happen, and we're going to see more and more. And we've already seen some versions of this, right? So for voice version, video versions. So it has already happened, and it will happen. And I think at the personal level, I kind of speak to my family that this technology exists, and maybe we should find a way, like a password. We have a family password, so they know, like, just kind of make sure that you're talking to me. But also, I think this is really beyond any marketers or professors' pay scale. Really, I think we need kind of legal, regulatory actions towards that to make this as kind of to discourage this and penalize this as effectively as possible. But yeah, big thing that keeps me sometimes awake at night as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly a scary new world out there. Last set of questions we had, just people wanting to know, what are some of the tools and resources that you used that you featured in this presentation. So first of all, the new product idea machine that you created, is that available to the public? Is that something that people can try out?
It is not, but I can make it available. I can share the link if they can drop me a line if they want to play around with it, or I can also share with you and then make it public, so that we can do it.
Okay.
The other tools, a lot of the images, I think most, unless they are a snapshot, they were AI generated, and I have used a variety of tools, but mostly ChatGPT's DALL-E model, different versions of it, because I take them different times. I have used Ideogram there as well, Gemini too. So, but mostly ChatGPT. The translation one is Heygen, Heygen. The podcast one was Notebook LM, which also allows you to kind of engage with AI content beyond generating podcasts. So it's actually a good way to organize your material on any topic and then engage with it in an interactive fashion. What else I had there? For video, there's Sora. I don't think I had any videos that I have generated there, but Veo 3 is really good. Google's Veo 3. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Oz, and thank you for this presentation. Thank you to all our attendees for joining us today. That's all the time we have today, unfortunately. And thanks to our sponsor, SAS, for supporting this event. Thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks all.